Hello, my loves, and welcome to another round of Strange Playgrounds, and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a bit inert of late. That's because I've been busy. I've actually been away. I've been traveling. For the first time since the beginning of COVID, I've been properly traveling, as in outside of the bloody UK, which has been so reinvigorating. It's been wonderful, actually. My friend Alex and I, we've been talking about going away somewhere for a long time. We both work in social care. He works with people with dementia and Alzheimer's. I work with people with learning difficulties. And we're both a bit burnt out this year. It's been very busy. It's been very stressful. There's been a lot going on. So we decided to we were just going to do it. We were just going to do it. We were going to book up somewhere, force ourselves to go. You know, if it's booked, it's done. You've got to do it, right? And we threw around a couple of locations, but in the end, we decided on Rome. And we decided on Rome for a number of reasons. A, we've never been, so that's a very good reason in and of itself. B, the food. I mean, like Italian food is one of my absolute favorite traditions. As some of you may know, I don't know if I've ever talked about it on this channel or not. I'm very much a foodie. I'm very much a cook. One of my hobbies is cookery. One of the things I do alongside the writing as a means of decompressing is cooking and baking. Every meal I eat is cooked. It's not always cooked that day. You know, I make things like casseroles and curries and lasagnas and bologneses and whatever, and put them in the fridge and then eat them across a course of days. But everything I eat is cooked at home. I don't eat like ready meals or frozen food or anything like that. And it's not out of any snobbery or anything. It's just that I don't like them. I like to cook. I enjoy cookery. I think it's fun. It's a discipline. I practice a lot. I bake all my own bread, for example. I bake a lot of cakes and a lot of pies and things like that. I enjoy it. I find it a very relaxing discipline. It's something I can throw my attention into, especially after the intensity, the emotional nakedness of writing. You know, it's a different form of creativity. So Italy was an obvious one, and Rome, well, funnily enough, Rome in particular. I've never been on a city break per se. I've never been on a holiday where, barring one or two instances, I've been to Marrakesh and I've been to Florence and I've been to a couple of others which sort of counted as city breaks, but I haven't really done a real proper city break for a long time. So that was nice. That was a big draw to be in the midst of and the rush and the whirl of civilization and society. You know, that was a big deal. And beyond that, I'm fascinated. I am really immersed in ancient Roman history. I love, in particular, the imperial period from the Emperor Augustus up to the Emperor Nero, when the Roman Emperor collapsed. Largely, I have to say, because of the influence of I Claudius. Anyone who hasn't seen the original BBC I Claudius from the 1970s, I can't even tell you how good it is. It is one of my favorite shows ever. If there's a show that compares to Hannibal in my esteem, it's that. It is one of the most brilliant, beautiful, incredibly written and conceived pieces of work I have ever seen. And it's currently available on the iPlayer, by the way. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Of course, all of that history is there. It's there within the city. Rome is the most amazing place. It is the most amazing place. It's a place that is just seething and redolent with history. Every street, every cobble, every corner, every square is just infested. It's just radiant with history. You will come to crossroads in the city. You will come to little streets where there will be original fountains, where there will be basilica, where there will be churches and cathedrals and temples that are from previous periods of history. There's hardly a street in the place where there isn't something of intrigue or interest. That's another thing about Rome, by the way. There's very good public transport out there, but I wouldn't advise it. If you're going as a visitor, walk. Walk the length and breadth of the city. It's a big ass city, by the way, but I would advise walking because there is something on every street. There is something to be observed or to be fascinated by on every street. And I don't just mean in the touristy areas like up near the Colosseum or up near the Trevi Fountain or the Vatican or whatever, although those things are incredible. Those things are absolutely incredible. The thing, there's stuff just out of the way. Every single street, you'll find something of intrigue or interest, and that was just amazing. I mean, for me, just the fact of traveling was wonderful. I find traveling to be mind expanding. I find that it forces you to reconsider your parameters and your contexts and your assumptions. It acts as a kind of refresher for your internal condition, and it expands your mind massively. I mean, I loved the fact of the traveling, even though it can be stressful, even though there are lots of pressures and things that operate upon it, you know. Um, I loved it. I loved it. I loved traveling by plane. I loved going from Heathrow to the Leonardo da Vinci Airport. It was incredible. Um, just engaging with those systems, just being in that state of transition, I find to be interesting. And then you get there, of course, and suddenly you're a stranger. Suddenly you're someone else. Suddenly you have to reconceptualize who you are for a brief period and in relation to your environment and the people in it. And that is a wonderful thing. Again, it comes with its own set of stressors and its own problems, especially if you, like myself and my companion Alex, if you have your own mental health problems, which we both do. It even given that it allows you to recontextualize yourself, and it can be a great help to mental health in that regard. I feel rejuvenated mentally, internally. I feel better for having done it. It has just made me feel good, and it's made me determined to do much more traveling in the future, actually. I don't know what I'm going to do in the future, where I'm going to go, but I'm definitely going to do it because this has been wonderful. This has been the most amazing experience. Beyond the historical stuff, there's the social aspect. Rome is a really interesting city with its own very particular internalized culture. I mean, it's not prescribed or anything like that. There are channels here on YouTube that we watched before we went from people who travel often that claim that there's like these very strict cultural rules. There aren't. It's garbage. You can do more or less what you like. The city is very catered towards tourists. Um, but what I did love was the cafe culture. The food culture is incredible out there. Italians and Romans in particular take their food very seriously. Very seriously. It's a point of cultural pride. And it is possible, but it's very hard to get a bad meal out there. There are everywhere you go, little cafes and little bars and eateries, and you can either do it al banco, which means that you can sit at the bar and have your coffee and your glass of wine or your little pastry or whatever, or you can sit outside. You can sit on the street at a table and drink your coffee there. There is an odd little city tax whereby all of the outlets that have outside seating, like seating on the street, have to pay a little tax, and they recoup that by putting the tax onto your bill, onto your tab. And that may catch you off guard if you don't know about it. But if you know about it and you want to sit down, just pay the fucking tax. Just sit down and pay the tax. It's only a little one. It doesn't matter. It's not that big a deal, you know? And another thing I loved is you just go to the bar and in your cafe or whatever, and you just order what you want, and they will give it to you, or they'll bring it to you. They'll bring it to your table, and you pay after the fact. I just love that. I love that. I think that's so interesting, and you can sit. I mean, my friend Alex and I, we found this little hole in the wall place just up the road from where we were staying, and it It was just perfect. It was just perfect. We went in almost every day, had some, took it easy. We just sat and had coffees, and we had little pastries and little sandwiches and little like cakes and whatnot. And by the time we were done, our table was just full of plates and whatnot. And then we paid, and then we moved on. That's the way it happens. There's also this wonderful thing where the city, about sort of roughly around 4 or 5 o'clock, the city has aperitivo, and in aperitivo, all the bars and the cafes start to serve like little drinks, like alcoholic drinks. They serve spritzes and the famous Alperol spritz, which is basically it's like a little cocktail of orange bitters and liqueurs that and a little bit of wine, I think, is in it too. It's very good. The Alperol Spritz is really lovely, and you can only get good ones in Rome, unfortunately. You can only get the good ones in Rome. They're absolutely beautiful, and they serve little bites and eats, not main meals. They don't really start to serve main meals until a little later on, but you get your little bites and things, and it's wonderful. It's so nice. It's so relaxing. As soon as aperitivo rolls around, you know you can have a little slice of pizza or something or a little bowl of something nice. It's so good. And the food was incredible. The food was an adventure. If you're a foodie, if you like exploring your palate, and if you like just so well made food, Rome is the place. Rome is absolutely the place. And it's not very expensive either. There are expensive restaurants there. We had a treat one night when we sat in an expensive restaurant and we had an expensive meal, and it was spectacular. It really was spectacular. We had a few courses. We had a starter, we both had pasta dishes, which were some of the best pasta dishes we'd ever eaten. I had kind of tortellini that was in like a herb broth with sea bass, and it was so bloody good. And then for a main, I had like a sea bass fillet that was that had like a red wine sauce, and it had baked courgettes in herbs, and oh my god, it was so good. It was so good. But if you don't want to break the bank, you don't have to. Decent food in Rome is really easy to come by and very, very cheap. The last day we were there, we found this little restaurant that was just basically like, think of the stereotype of an Italian restaurant in your mind, and it was that. It was that basically. Loads of locals were eating in there, which was a good sign for us. And we had the best food we'd had the entire holiday there in that night. I had a lasagna, which is, by the way, one of my favorite meals ever. I bake several of my own lasagnas at home. I bake vegetarian ones, I bake classic ones. The lasagna I had in that place was a revelation. It was the most beautiful lasagna I've ever had. It was seriously, it was like a cartoon moment. I dipped my spoon in it and I had a mouthful and my eyes lit up. All my senses went nuts. Stars burst behind my eyes. Alex did the same, and you could see it in his face just how amazing that dish was. And it was very cheap for what we had. We had 3 courses that night and several drinks, and it was very, very cheap indeed. But we had the best meal, the best food. It was an incredible experience. But, the specifics of Rome aside, it really was the fact of traveling. It is. I just love it. I love traveling. I've always loved traveling. It's always done something for me. It's always made me feel, I don't know, it makes me feel different apart from myself, and thereby allows me to recontextualize who I am in reference to something new. And that state of transition where you can sit and people watch, it's so good for a writer to travel. It's so good for a writer to travel. You will get so many new subjects by doing that and new ideas. It's been an incredible time, I've got to say, and I have so many new stories that I want to write. I have so many things that I want to express. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful period, but I'm back now, and we'll be getting back on course on this channel very, very soon. Until then, bye bye.